All right, let's go. So today's hot topic is what I call energy suck number one in the world, or at the very least, energy suck number one in the world to me. And yes, this relates to money. Excuse me, this relates to investment. Relates to pretty much everything that you do in life. And I never seem to be on board with other people when it comes to this discussion or this matter. What I'm talking about is simply buying and owning a house or home. Now, full disclosure, I don't own a house or a home currently. I probably will never do that, at the very least, not in the conceivable future, because I don't believe much in owning a house or a home. I view it largely as a riskier investment rather than a safer investment for a multitude of reasons. And especially in my current situation, I don't want to invest. Maybe I'll change my mind in the future, who knows. I've already had oh excuse me, I've already had owned or I've already had a house and an apartment previously, and I can't really say that I enjoyed owning either of those two items, really, because all they did was give me headaches. But let's just go down the rabbit hole of owning a house or a home, just so we're crystal clear what I'm talking about here. Now, first and foremost, if you're buying a house or a home and you want to, or no, rather, let's start from the very beginning again. If you're settling down and you want to live somewhere for the next 25 plus years, well, and raise kids and have a family, whatever, well, then of course it makes sense to buy a house or a home. Don't be dumb. Of course you do that, right? Because you're supposed to live there. Probably and quite likely the house or home will appreciate in value over time, depending on where you're living and so on. And you will make a net financial profit when it comes to your investment. Now, if you're not content or if you're not exactly sure where to live or what you want to do, or if you want to travel out and about and you want to explore, and you find other venues as well to invest your money in, then I won't recommend buying a house or a home at all. Now, once again, this is obviously not financial advice. I'm not even qualified to give financial advice. So do consult some sort of advisor who's actually qualified to do so. But here's what I can tell you. And this is my personal experience, by the way, when it comes to talking to bankers and real estate agents and other people in that space. Listen, they're all salesmen. That's what they are. They're salesmen wearing suits, talking to you in fancy language, trying to sway and swoon you into purchasing a home and taking up a mortgage. That's all they do. They're sellers through and through. Here's a fun fact, actually. I'm not going to disclose, obviously, where and when it was. I'm just going to say that it was before COVID, and I'd ratcheted up my loaning degree to the absolute maximum of what I was allowed to do at that time. And I remember expressing my concerns to the banker, with whom I was working with, shall we say, in that regard. So this individual told me that, look, yes, I understand. Right now, you bought this house, you have a large loan, you need to pay down interest on that loan as well. It's going to take you some years. But look, the interest rates are going to remain low for years to come, for a long time ahead. Now, he didn't say it's going to remain, or that they're going to remain low for 10 plus or 15 plus years, but that was the explicit understanding. Excuse me, that was the implicit understanding. That was pretty much what it was hinting about. In the context of our conversation, that was what it was hinting about. Right? And at that time, circa around that time, the interest rates were about, let me see, let me do a quick calculation here. they must have been around 2.5%, or actually lower. I remember actually, I remember actually reading about people who had interest rates at around 1.5%, which is crazy, right? An interest rate of 1.5%, which caused a lot of people to borrow more money, of course, because they could afford it. Also, then what happens? COVID hits, inflation skyrockets, and interest rates go right up. And now it's commonplace, because I follow a few groups and I follow a few chats here and there on various social media. And what I see is people are struggling to pay their loans. Well, no shit, Sherlock. They borrowed a lot of money when the interest rates were low and when inflation wasn't as high. And all of a sudden, their their monthly expenses on their loans are increasing because the interest rates are increasing. Power and gas heating and all sorts of other expenses are increasing as well. Insurance and other costs are increasing as well, and costs related to maintenance of the home is raising as well. And insurance companies, perhaps this is the worst thing actually. Insurance companies are actually now suggesting that maybe we can't exactly secure your home or guarantee that you get a payout in case of an accident because of the quote unquote unstable climate. Think about that. Even the insurance companies are on board with this whole climate nonsense garbage. Look, climate is changing, and I'm not going to go into that discussion, but right here, right now, or actually, I guess I am. But let me just put it like this. The climate is always going to change. It has always been changing. It never remains stable, and you can't predict where the climate is going to go. So yes, the average weather, because that's what climate really is. Climate is nothing more than the average weather across a given time span, is always going to be unstable. And now you have insurance companies saying that, look, because of the unstable climate conditions and because costs related to maintenance and payouts are increasing, we're not sure if we can guarantee that we can pay for any sorts of damage or accidents that occur to your home. If there's a flood, if there's a major natural disaster or some such. So now all of a sudden, everything is against you if you want to buy a house or a home. Now, once again, it all depends on your goals. In the context of settling down and remaining in one location for the next 25 plus years, I absolutely believe that owning a home would be the most logical decision. Absolutely would. But I mean, if you want to settle down in one place and virtually never have the option to leave because you're tied down to your home, because costs are increasing all the time. Oh, and because of let's actually take a few steps back, because I said that the value of the home would increase. But that's the perceived market value that I'm talking about. I'm not saying that the intrinsic value of your home goes up. In fact, it goes down. I mean, if you're building a home, if you're building a house from scratch, you need materials. You need concrete, steel, wood, plaster, all sorts of things, all sorts of materials to build a home. The intrinsic value of the materials, of course, go down over time because they're being worn down. They're being used, right? So it's not like it's aging fine like wine, or it's like a diamond or gold that stands the tests of time, the tests and tribulations of time. No, it's not. It gets worn down over time, but it is the perceived market value that goes up. And absolutely, if you're buying a home and a house in a congested area, and more people will move into that congested area, and new houses aren't built, of course the market value is going to go up. until it doesn't, and until there is a bubble that bursts. Because that's what I think is going to happen. Yes, I've been saying this for years, and I'm probably going to be saying that for years. But that's by and large what I think is going to be happening. Now, once again, it all depends. It might not happen the way I predict. It might not happen at all. It might happen gradually, shall we say. Now, that's that. There are other ways to see the value of your money appreciate. Because if we're talking about energy, we're talking about energy, and I'm going to revisit energy because I said that owning a home is the number one energy suck in the world, and I'm going to explain that at a later time. Actually, I'm going to explain it now, because now is a perfect way to seek into the, shall we say, non-tangibles that comes along with owning a home. If you own a home, or if you don't own a home, if you're renting, yeah, you're wasting money because you're paying money for something that you don't own. Well, it's a false assumption, because either way you need a place to live. Except that place isn't yours. But here's what you get instead. You get the option to travel more. You get the option to use the money that you're not using to maintain your house or home to invest in businesses and build businesses and make other investments. You get the liberty of just leaving everything behind because it's convenient to you, and you don't have any responsibility at all. At all. Because you're just a renter. And four, you have the freedom to use your energy to do other things. See, I want to talk a little bit about number 4, using your energy to do other things. See, when I owned a home, I was constantly worried that everything would break, that there would be a leakage, that there would be some maintenance that needed to be done, that there would be an accident or some such. Maybe it's a little bit too risk averse. Maybe it's a little bit non-productive to look at the world that way. But I just couldn't rid myself of those thoughts. In fact, when I'd sold my home, the latest house that I owned, I was so happy and so glad that I didn't have to bother with any of that shit anymore. Because I was so tired of everything. It just wore me down. Now, I'm not going to go into details, but let me just say that briefly, here's what happened. I built a home, or me and my ex-partner built a home together. We split up in the middle of the construction of the house. I had to oversee the finishing of the house that I knew that we will later have to sell because we weren't going to be living there. It was the house of shattered dreams. And I think, I waited, or we had to, of course, go down in price or sell it at a loss, obviously. And it took a grand total of, let me do a rough calculation. It took a grand total of 14 months to sell that home, more than a year. And yes, that was just so fatiguing and so brain draining, I can't describe it. So I had pretty poor experiences when it came to owning a home. So yes, in that regard, I'm biased, of course. But I want to go back to the non-tangible energy, because that's really what I'm high on. And this is going to sound a little bit counterintuitive. And I'm not sure how to properly explain it, but everything is not about money. So if you value money above everything else, well, then go invest in your home and suffer while making the down payments of your mortgage, and then you can retire happy when you're 65, right? Because I know a lot of people who finally, when they were 65, they paid down their mortgage, now they can retire. Or they could have lived an exciting life and done so much else. Think about that. What do you treasure the most? Do you treasure the home that you're living in when you're 65 plus years old and you finally pay down your mortgage and you don't have the energy to do anything, much less the money to do so? Or do you treasure the ability to live the life to your fullest when you're in your younger years? Now, there's no right or wrong answer here. And I'm not saying that it's bad to own a home. I'm just suggesting that you're losing a lot of stuff. You're losing out on a lot of stuff. Perhaps even financial stuff. Because let's say that you found a way to invest your money or your assets in something else than a house that would appreciate more. Think about it. Now, once again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial investment advice because I'm not qualified to do so. So please don't listen to me. I'm just someone who talks about energy all day long. That's pretty much it. I can talk to you all the way, everything with respect to, not everything with respect to, but let me just tell you that I'm way more qualified to suggest things with respect to geology and climate because that's part of my education rather than financials. So yeah, once again, just regard me as that dumb engineer who knows nothing about financial investments. I'm just saying that there is way more to financial investments than buying a home, and therefore also your energy, because guess what? Your energy is actually related to your financial state. Because if you have a poor financial state, it'll give you lots of stress, which obviously isn't good for your energy. So that's why I'd rather suggest you build up a business or you invest in something, an investment vehicle, and you use those profits to perhaps buy a home when you can afford to do so. And once again, I'm very biased here. I don't like having loans. I don't like having mortgage. I don't like owning people anything. I don't like it. Oh, and also, when the current boomer generation who owns a lot of homes, when they were my age and younger, it made much more financial sense for them to buy a home because guess what? Prices weren't that inflated according or with respect to the price level and their salaries. In fact, most boomers that I talked to told me that when they were my age and younger, they needed to, let me see, a house or a regular home was worth maybe 2 annual salaries or some such. So 2x your annual income, 2x your annual gross income. And now, you'd be lucky if you're finding something, especially in the larger towns in my country, that's worth maybe 5 times your annual salary. And that's what, a 600 square foot apartment, if you're lucky? Maybe a 700 square foot apartment. If you want anything above that, you need to move out to the countryside or way out in the boons. So it's not a fair comparison. And once again, I'm being reminded of those people who say that, oh, you know what, I'm so happy that I invested in real estate when I was younger because that's how I've firstly got into the housing market. Yeah, well, guess what? You're sitting there with your big ass loan and your big ass mortgage, and perhaps the perceived market value of your home is worth a lot of money. But you're still trapped because you still need to pay down, you still need to make the down payments. And what happens when the interest rates go up? And you could instead have made more money by investing other places? Once again, don't listen to me. I'm not a financial advisor, so I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just suggesting things here. I'm just asserting the case that there is way more to your energy and to your financial state rather than buying a home or a house. And yes, I'm very biased. Absolutely unbiased. Anyway, I'll end my small little rant here and I'll encourage you to, if you want to learn more about energy, get subscribed to my email list by clicking on the link in the episode description below this video, and I'll see you there. Thank you so much for listening and or watching.